Hello again, BookTube. My name's Daniel. Welcome back to my channel, Guilty Feet to Got the Rhythm. Today, everyone's talking about March Mystery Madness. So I don't have any new books, even though I recently did a small book haul. I didn't buy any new mystery books. I read mystery and crime books all the way through the year. That's why I'm not really tuned into these monthly themes, but I do like following and seeing what everyone else is reading. So what I thought I would do instead, because I don't have any new mystery books yet, they're all waiting for me at my mum's, if you haven't heard the story, and where I have the first in several new series, new to me series, old series that many of you have read and many people are talking about, a couple of them. For example, spoilers for that book haul, but I bought the first ever Hercule Poirot, so I haven't read Christie. Unless I read something when I was younger before I was even tracking, I don't think I've ever read an Agatha Christie book from cover to cover, and I decided rather than start and read all of them that I would see how I get on with Hercule Poirot. Like in my head, I think I've read some Poirot short stories, so I must have read something somewhere. Anyway, I've got the first ever Hercule Poirot waiting for me there, but without any new mystery books coming in, I thought the only contribution I can make to March Mystery Madness was recommend 5 mystery books, 4 of which are parts of a series. So I'm recommending the series and the author, and one of them is a standalone. So let's see how we go. So the first one I've got here is A Firing Offence by George P. Pelecanos. Sometimes just goes by George Pelecanos. This was his debut novel, and this is the first of a trilogy featuring Nick Stefanos, who works as works in a hi-fi store, and it's a bit of a layabout and no good Nick, and somehow someone asks him to find somebody and kind of gets involved in a mystery, and he's probably a very different kind of protagonist than other ex-cops or ex-military or just sort of old school detectives. He's kind of a functioning alcoholic, and that plays out over the 3 books that Stefanos is the main character in. He actually shows up in some of Pelecanos' other books as well, but I love this. I've got this. This is Serpent's Tail do these editions in the UK, so I've got the 3 Nick Stefanos books in these Serpent's Tail editions, and they're all fabulous. And the whole series has kind of got a sort of melancholy running through it, but really exciting, really well choreographed stuff. One of Pelecanos' tics, which you see, I'm pretty sure you see in this book, and you see plays throughout, is whenever he goes to a bar and he pays for his drinks, he's getting information from the bartender or from somebody, he always talks about how much he tips. So he'll, and it's always over tips, because, I'm guessing that at some point in his life Pelecanos worked at a bar, because he was saying, so that he gets charged $8 for his cocktail, and he talks about he always leaves 20 on 8, or a 50 on 30, whatever it is, and he's always talking about how much over the amount that he's being charged he leaves as his tip. And it's just a quote, but he's great. And Pelecanos went on to write for The Wire, so friends with David Simon, and worked on other of Simon's TV series. So I think he's credited for some of the episodes of Treme and The Deuce. He must have 15, 16 novels. I've read every single one of his novels that he's put out, because I think he is perhaps the most literary and the most brilliant of modern crime writers. This is more of a mystery. I guess we're supposed to talk about mystery rather than just crime. I think this is first class. If you haven't read Pelecanos, this might be a good place to start. There's 3 Nick Stefanos novels. This is the first one, A Firing Offence. Highly recommend it. So the second one, if I move this way a little bit, I've still got that beautiful glare on my forehead. Isn't that so shiny? So much forehead. I think Tyra Banks was the first person to coin the phrase five-head. Anyway, so my second one is a non-series book, and this is the English translation, or the English language title for the UK was Miss Miller's Feeling for Snow. In America, this was published as Smiller's Sense of Snow, so without the miss and sense instead of feeling. I think it was by the same translator, so I think I don't think it's that there's a different translation has caused a different title. I think it was just UK versus US marketing. The movie, there was a movie with, what's her name? I can't remember the name of the actress. I want to say Juliette Binoche, and it's not Juliette Binoche, it's Julia, or Julia, its surname begins with an O. Anyway, there was a movie of Smiller's Sense of Snow, in the US title. This is a book, I picked this up in 95. This book I think was first published in 1992 in Danish. This is translated into English by, it says it's translated into Danish by F. David. I think the American version has F. David rendered. It's the same person, but using a different name. I think F. David is a pseudonym. I don't remember what that is. I got that from Wikipedia. This was an IT book back in the early 90s, certainly in the UK, and clearly enough in America that they went and financed a movie from it. And I think largely disappeared. I don't know if anyone is still reading this, but this was one of the novels of the day in pre-internet times, and you knew this was a novel of the day because every bookstore you went into had this on display on one of the tables. And so I picked this up. This is probably one of the last things I bought before I emigrated to Israel. So 1295, and we moved to Israel in January 96. So I would have brought this with me. You know, most of my books got packed up and were shipped later the following year, but I brought some books with me because I knew I was going to be without books, so I'd gone to the bookshop, stocked up, and brought some books with me in my suitcase when we came to Israel. And there is an interesting story about this, which I've been loath to tell in public, but I figure that the person this story is about will never necessarily watch this, hopefully. So when we came to Israel, we were staying in a new immigrant absorption center. So it's a special, it's a building of dorms that the Israeli government subsidize your rent, and you're allowed to stay there for up to 6 months or 9 months or whatever it is, and while you're looking for your first job and your apartment, etc., etc., etc. And so we're there with a bunch of with immigrants from all over the world, Americans, Canadians, South Americans, French people, all sorts of people, and and you become very friendly with those people because we were all young. I was in my mid-20s with a young baby, and everyone else is roughly in the same stage of life. Mostly are coming to live here with either a young baby or small children, and there was a lot of people like us. Now, I had books with me, and I read books, and not everyone else had books, so I lent books to people. And this was one of the books that I did not get back because after 6-9 months we moved out, and I lent this to somebody and we didn't see them as much. Now, jump forward 25 years, they happen to live in the next building. The person I lent this book to happens to live in the next building to me now, and I do see them occasionally, and we're friendly, and we say hi. We're not good friends, but we pass each other on the street, and we ask how the kids are, etc., etc., etc. But back then, we moved out, rented our first apartment, and lost touch with the person I had lent this book to. About 2 or 3 years later, I was in a second-hand bookshop, as I often find myself, and looking through what they had, and I saw this edition, which was the exact same edition that I had owned and lent and lost, and I picked it up, and lo and behold, it had my name in it. So this was my edition that I had lent out, and someone had either given, donated, or I hope not, sold to a second-hand bookstore. That's the little sticker indicating the price, and you can very faintly, you can see over my name the stamp of the second-hand bookstore. I did not buy this in a second-hand bookstore. I bought this new, lent it to someone. It ended up in a second-hand bookstore, and what did I do? I bought it again, because it has my name in it, and it was mine. So I've paid twice for this book. It's one of my favourite stories that I often share with people. I believe that the person who borrowed this book from me would be so mortified if they were to ever hear this story. But I think it's kind of funny, and I was happy to have it back in my collection, even though it meant buying my own book back. That's Miss Miller's Feeling for Snow. Oh, it's all just a terrific sort of Scandi noir early. Before people talk about Scandi noir, Smiller investigates the boy next door who ends up, we don't know how he's died, and there's a lot of snow, and it's very cold, very atmospheric, and sort of prototypical Scandi noir. I guess there were Scandi noir stories before this, but this was before we had Yo Nesbo and people like that. So Miss Miller's Feeling for Snow, kind of probably a forgotten mystery book, but really good. Okay, this one, something I probably don't do, but I'm going to show you the third in a series, and the reason is because I've lent the first one to someone, and the second one my daughter is currently reading, so the only one I've got here to show you is the third one. Now this is very cozy. This is Janet Ivanovich, Three to Get Deadly. This is part of the series. Each one is numbered, so you know where you are in the series. Always, because the first book in the series is 1 for the money, maybe. The second one, 2 for the dough, 3 to Get Deadly, 4 for something, whatever. You don't have to remember the titles because they don't matter terribly much in a series like this, but the number in them is really helpful because you always know where you are and which one you need to get. I think she's up to about 26 or 27 of these now, and I avoided these for the longest time because I like hard-boiled noir. I don't really have much time for cozy stuff, and my impression was that these were always very cozy. If you don't know, these feature a character called Stephanie Plum, who is a loud, brash, single New Jersey woman who's lost her job, divorced, whose parents are always trying to get her to marry again, whose grandma is on her case all the time, and her life is not necessarily the most well organised and with any sort of perceivable future, and she winds up, Stephanie Plum, working for her cousin as a bail bondswoman, as a bounty hunter, essentially, and that sort of plays out in the first book, and each one of these I've read 6 or 7 of them now. Each one of these is about, she has 1 or 2 people that she's trying to track down, and sometimes the stories overlap, and they are genuinely funny to the point where I have to put the book down because I'm laughing so hard, and yet they have good, solid detective work and mysteries to solve, and bodies pile up. There's enough, where they're cozy, but people get blown up and stabbed and murdered, and that's all real, and there are shootouts and all that kind of stuff. The aspect of it I like the least is there's always sort of love triangle going on between Stephanie and the first boy who kissed her, who happens now to be a police detective, and another mysterious bounty hunter who's very helpful to her, and sometimes calls on her for backup, and more often she calls on him for backup, although she's no pushover by any stretch. I'm less interested in the love triangle, and only after I read the first couple did I find out that Janet Ivanovich started off writing romance stories. I don't read a lot of romance, and I think she has a fairly successful career writing romance stuff, and as I say, I'm less interested in those parts of it, but the other aspects, the sort of the procedural parts and the actual construction of the mysteries themselves is rock solid and very, very funny. So I picked up the first one. I was in it was in a store in Seattle, and they had a whole bunch. They probably had brand new American mass market paperbacks, and I've got a soft spot for American mass market paperbacks, and they were selling them for like £2 each, with $2 each. So I bought the first one there in Seattle, and thought, let's give this a try. I'm always looking for a new series. I'm looking to read more crime and mystery written by women, as I tend to sort of more hard-boiled stuff is often written by men, and I had such fun with the first one, and I'd say I've now read 7 of them. I bought 4 more that are waiting for me in London, and I'll keep going with these until they stop making me laugh. I can read them. So this is a so number 3 I've got. This is a Penguin British sort of mass market paperback. So I've mix and match. I don't care. I've got some American editions, some UK editions. This actually is withdrawn from Suffolk libraries. I love an ex-library book, and therefore it comes with this beautiful plastic cover on it protecting it. So that's nice. Doesn't say when the last time it was borrowed. Yeah, so 2 for the dough is the second one. That's right. Anyway, if you fancy a sort of cozy but serious mystery, and I mean, and it's the mystery part that's serious. The rest of the book is hilarious. Specifically, Stephanie is very funny. Her grandmother is genuinely laugh out loud, funny, and funny character, and the set pieces are properly funny. But the mystery aspect of it is a serious mystery. So yeah, recommend it. May have talked about it too much, but really good. And again, I'm not a big fan of comedy books and comedy writing, just because I'm always trying to look under the hood and see how they constructed that gag, and sort of overthinking it rather than just. So anytime a book makes me laugh from joy, and not because I've understood the mechanics of the build-up and the gag and the punchline delivery, is a joy for me. So yeah, Janet Evanovich, and the other one is Lisa Lutz's Spellman books. There are 6 Spellman books, and this terribly lurid, dare I say, chick-litty cover. Only because I think they're ripping off the covers of the Shopaholic books that they did in the UK. In America, these were published with slightly more serious mystery fiction kind of covers, but this was clearly being marketed in the UK as just suitable, supermarket fodder, chick lit, and that shouldn't be a pejorative term, but I think in this instance, the way it's being marketed does the book a disservice, because this is, again, proper mystery, terrifically written. Lisa Lutz, I think, was trying to build a career as a TV writer, and was struggling to establish herself, and put out the first Spellman book. And as I say, they've now 6 of them, and then she has a standalone called The Passenger, which I've also read, is great. This is, as I say, it's about a family. So that's the first thing. They're a family of private detectives. So the parents run their own detective agency, and Izzy Spellman, who is the main protagonist, is the elder daughter, and she's the one running. Also working in the agency, working for her parents, which is a pain in the neck, trying to be independent. Her brother David has kind of got out, and he's a lawyer, and then there's a younger sister as well, who, in the first book, is 14 years old, and the cause of all sorts of issues. So Izzy Spellman is just a genuinely terrific character. The writing here is fresh. The mystery aspect of things is serious. And the comedy is real. Again, some actual laugh-out moments. The dialogue, the banter is terrific, and highly recommend this. It kind of, I've read all 6 in the Spellman series, and the joy kind of wears off towards the end. But the first 3 or 4 are all terrific. Highly recommended. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is a novelist that I've spoken about before. I spoke earlier about Walter Mosley's Easy Rawlins series, and he has a number of series characters. So Easy Rawlins is this most popular one, but there's also Socrates Fortlow, Paris Minton, and then this was the first in a series of books featuring Leonid McGill, who is an African-American private detective. Now, the difference between the McGill books and the Easy Rawlins are period pieces. So the first Easy Rawlins books takes place in the late 40s. Easy is back from the war as a black man in America, having served and fought for his country, and how his country treats him thereafter, and he's solving crimes or mysteries specifically. The remarkable thing about the Easy Rawlins books is that they're taking place over time, so that each book jumps forward 1 or 2 years in time, and so by the 13th, 14th book, we're now, I think the most recent one was set in the late 60s, which is a very different time to be African American, and Easy is now in his 50s, as opposed to just coming back from the war and it being in the 1940s. 1967, 68 America is a different kind of America. Some of the things may be the same. For being black in America in the late 60s wasn't necessarily a whole lot better than being black in America in the 40s. Maybe it's not a whole lot different from being black in America in the 21st century. There's a lot of social commentary in those books, and the way they move through time is one of the best things about that series. So I say the most recent Easy Rawlins was still in the late 60s, maybe at the turn of that decade. Leonid McGill is entirely contemporary. He is a hard man. He is a man who society has weighed on him, and he remains unbroken. He is a tough guy. He is a private detective, and as an African American man, he has access to some things that maybe some of his white clients don't have access to. There are also things that he doesn't have access to. But he is scrappy and hard and smart. And these are terrific series of mystery novels. So that, I think, is a collection of 5 recommendations. I will leave links to all of them below for you to explore further. I hope you're having fun with March Mystery Madness. Every month is a Mystery Madness for me, as I love a series book. I love a good crime fiction, whether it's noir. Less like to read cozy stuff, although I've had a couple of cozy recommendations here. But I hope you're having good reading time, whatever it is you're reading, whenever it is you're reading it. Take care. Bye.